A crisp autumn sun rose over the bustling streets of Willowbrook, its warmth hardly cutting through the chill in the air. Robert Smith, known to many as Big Robert, a former professional athlete turned entrepreneur and devoted father, was home for a short break between business trips. That day, his teenage daughter Lily had errands to run. Normally, Robert drove her everywhere, but she insisted she was old enough to handle things on her own. Against his protective instincts, he relented, letting her borrow a modest sedan. Lily, at 17, had inherited her father's tall stature and gentle smile. She exuded a quiet confidence, shaped by the lessons Robert had instilled in her about kindness, respect, and standing up for others. She slipped out of their family home with a wave, promising to be back soon. Robert, double-checking the security alarms, reminded her to stay safe. She gave him an affectionate eye roll and repeated, "I'll be fine, Dad. Relax." The city was alive with weekend traffic as Lily headed downtown to pick up groceries and supplies for a community service project. On the way, she sang along to a playlist of her favorite R&B classics and her father's old hip-hop favorites. She parked near a small neighborhood market known for its fresh produce, grabbed her tote bag, and hopped out. As she strolled across the sidewalk, her phone buzzed. Robert had texted, "All okay?" She responded with a thumbs-up emoji and updated him on her errand. The air was vibrant with locals chatting, produce vendors calling out prices, and passing cars honking. She'd barely made it halfway to the store entrance when a police cruiser rolled around the corner. Lily glanced over politely, but didn't think much of it until the car pulled to a sudden stop, lights flashing. A tall, broad-shouldered officer stepped out, eyeing her with a scowl. His name tag read, Officer Grayson. Approaching her in a stiff gait, he barked, "Hey you, what are you doing around here?" Confused, Lily paused. Running errands," she said, mustering a polite tone. "Is there a problem, officer?" His glare hardened. "You match a description," he snapped. "Suspicious activities have been reported in the area. Someone's been loitering, causing trouble. Show me your ID." Lily's stomach twisted. She'd faced subtle prejudice before, but never from a cop so openly hostile. She kept calm. "I'm not loitering," she explained. "I parked just there to buy groceries." Officer Grayson snorted, looking her up and down. "You getting smart with me, girl? I said ID. Right now." The tension bristled. Lily took out her wallet to hand over her driver's license. Grayson glanced at it, then tossed it back with a sneer. "A fancy name doesn't mean you aren't trouble," he spat. "People like you always think you can wander wherever you want." She stiffened at the insult. "People like you" was all too telling. "I'm not causing trouble," she repeated, her voice shaking slightly. "I'm just here to shop." He stepped closer, looming. "You better watch your mouth, or I'll watch it for you." Her heart pounded. She began backing away, phone in hand. She decided to record this. If it escalated, she'd seen enough stories to know how these encounters sometimes ended. "Officer," she said carefully, "I have every right to stand here. Please let me go on my way." The veins in Grayson's neck bulged. His eyes flicked to her phone. "You trying to film me?" he growled. "You better not." Lily opened her mouth to reply, but it was too late. He surged forward in one swift, violent movement. The punch caught her left cheek full on, sending her reeling to the asphalt. A wave of searing pain blurred her vision as onlookers gasped. She landed hard, the jolt smashing her phone against the ground. A hush swept over the previously busy street. On the ground, Lily felt throbbing pain and sudden tears of shock. The officer towered over her, fist clenched, a hateful scowl twisting his face. "That'll teach you," he spat. People rushed in, forming a distressed circle. Someone shouted, "Hey, you can't do that! She's just a kid!" Another dialed 911. A few started to record, capturing the scene for evidence. Then, from behind the crowd, a powerful voice boomed. "Lily!" Heads turned as a towering figure tore through the circle. At 6'7" and broad as a wall, Big Robert emerged, his face etched with urgent fury. He'd gotten a frantic call from a passerby who recognized Lily. Without hesitation, he raced downtown, weaving through traffic at breakneck speed. "Dad," Lily croaked, relief flooding her tear-streaked face. Robert knelt, gently brushing her hair aside to see the swelling bruise. Anger flared in his eyes, anger sharper than any he'd felt in his days on the court or during countless challenges in business. This was primal, paternal rage, fueled by love for his daughter. Officer Grayson blinked, briefly rattled by the sheer size of the newcomer. But then he squared his shoulders, posture defiant. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, his voice cracking slightly. Robert rose to his full height, looming over the policeman. "I'm her father," he said, his voice perilously calm. "And you just made the worst mistake of your life." The cop scoffed, though his bravado wavered. "Back off, big guy, or I'll—" He never finished. In a flash, Robert grabbed Grayson's wrist, twisted away the baton the cop tried to swing. The crowd watched, breathless. This wasn't a scuffle. It was a father reclaiming justice. Grayson tried to land another blow, but Robert, nimble from years of professional sports, dodged it. Summoning all the power in his muscular arms, he launched a single devastating punch to the cop's midsection. Grayson staggered, winded, eyes bulging. Fueled by protective instinct, Robert followed with a swift uppercut that snapped Grayson's head back. The policeman dropped to his knees, reeling from the thunderous force, his baton clattering on the asphalt. Onlookers gasped. A hush fell. Robert stood, chest heaving, fists clenched. The policeman lay on the ground, groaning, thoroughly subdued. Lily clung to Robert's arm. Pain radiated from her bruised cheek, but relief welled in her chest. Onlookers circled, murmuring about the assault they'd witnessed. Sirens blared in the distance. City police responding to frantic calls about an officer down. Robert gently scooped Lily behind him as more officers arrived, lights flashing. The new arrivals took in the scene. Grayson sprawled on the pavement, battered, Lily's bruised face and shattered phone. A circle of phones capturing the moment from multiple angles. Robert trembling with contained anger. One of the newly arrived cops recognized Robert immediately. Everyone did. But that wasn't the point. They carefully approached, receiving frantic testimonies from onlookers. "That cop punched her first. She did nothing. He was just racist. Big Robert saved her." With testimonies piling up, the officers knelt to secure Grayson, who spat curses at Robert. "You'll pay for assaulting an officer," Grayson snarled weakly. But the other cops didn't look convinced. They retrieved phones from witnesses, scanning footage of Grayson's unprovoked punch on Lily. The policeman in charge of the scene shook his head grimly and told Robert, "We see the video. Looks pretty bad for your attacker. We'll handle it." Robert nodded, breathing ragged. He tried to lower his adrenaline, stroking Lily's back in comfort. "She needs medical attention," he said quietly. "That's all I care about now." An ambulance soon arrived. Paramedics gently examined Lily's bruise, placing an ice pack on her cheek and confirming she'd need a thorough checkup for a potential concussion. Robert refused to leave her side. Grayson was cuffed and hauled away, his face twisted in pain and fury. Over the next hour, statements were taken. Sufficient evidence, video, eyewitness accounts, plus the battered phone on the pavement, left no doubt Grayson had assaulted Lily without justification. The entire city would soon see the footage. At the hospital, Lily sat in a private exam room, a fresh bandage on her cheek. Robert paced by the bed, his eyes full of worry. She reached out, tugging his sleeve. "Dad, I'm okay. Just a bruise, right?" He sighed, his shoulders slumping in relief. "Thank God. I'm sorry I didn't get there sooner." She gave a pained but reassuring smile. "You got there exactly when I needed you." He settled into a chair, gently holding her hand. "I can't believe some people out there," he muttered. "I'll do everything to make sure that cop never harms anyone else again. Ever." Grayson was charged with assault and misconduct. At home, a few days later, Lily recuperated with a faint bruise under her eye. Robert fussed over her, cooking her favorite meals and constantly checking if she needed anything. She teased him for playing the overprotective dad, but deep down, she was grateful. As the sun set one evening, father and daughter settled on the couch, flipping through channels. "You sure you're okay to watch the coverage?" Robert asked gently. She shrugged. "Might as well face it. People need to see the truth." Lily leaned against her dad, resting her head on his enormous shoulder. "Dad," she whispered, I'm glad you were there. Thank you." He pressed a soft kiss to her temple. "I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. No one will ever harm you like that." She reached up, hugging him fiercely around his neck. "I love you, Dad." "Love you too, kiddo." Rain tapped gently on the windows, but inside, the air felt safe and warm. From that day onward, they'd carry the memory of that frightening ordeal, but also the knowledge that their bond was unbreakable, and that no hateful act could stand unchallenged when a father's love went to battle for his child.